Jakl Den and Jakl fans, welcome back. We had an amazing season this year. We had some fantastic ups and downs. The Jakls played amazing. In case you're wondering, I have a new look. I got new glasses. Totally changed everything that I look like. It was funny, quick side note on that. I went down to go see Deadpool Wolverine last weekend at the movie theater. And, of course, every single time I leave the house, I'm wearing a Jackals shirt because that's 90% of my wardrobe now. And I walk in, and it's one of these where, like, the waiters and waitresses come take your food order when you sit down in your seat. And I walk in, and some dude that's doing, like, seating people goes, "Oh, go Jackals, heck yeah." And I stopped, and I was like, "Wait, so, like, you know who this team is?" And he was like, yeah, like, my friend we used to go, like, in the first season, but we haven't gone in a while. And I was like, well, like, the Jakl Den, like, we're a huge supporters club. Like, check us out on Facebook and whatnot. And I told him, I get his phone, and I was like, spelling Jaklden, like, here it is. I was like, yeah, I'm the president of it, and, you know, we put out a bunch of content and whatnot. And he pulls up the YouTube, and he goes, well, who's this guy? And I was like, well, that was me, but that was me last week. When I had, you know.
Like, you're actually good looking. Who's the ogre on your chin? Yeah.
When you couldn't see all my chins, that was me. No, so this is end of postseason roundup. What we're going to do, I'm joined by some awesome people. Again, my international rugby superstar, Mr. Kibui. Also joined from two amazing fans who have been incredible big hitters in the Jakl Den and supporters, Mr. Stephen Boating. Is it Boating?
Yep.
Okay. And then Alex Lohman, who became famous on social media real quick for his awesome custom shirt. He is known as the Ogre, the old goth rugby enthusiast. Nice. Who literally does live in a mansion that is haunted.
We'll go with that definition of it, yeah.
Something like that.
Is that the one he opens up once a year for the haunted house?
Actually, no. The trick-or-treaters come by just the yard Halloween night, but it's kind of weird. I actually don't get to be at home on Halloween just due to the nature of my job.
Sure.
That's a good point.
Cool. So
I want to jump right into this. We've got a couple of pre-planned questions. We're going to kind of go around the table here and give some input. We'll start with going clockwise on this first one, and we'll start with Mr. Steven. So, what went well for the Jakls on the field this season?
All right. I've got three big things that I thought went incredibly well. Number one is scoring. Jakls were second in the league with points, most tries of any team, and this season puts us fifth in. There are only four other teams that scored more tries than we have, and only 8 other times somebody else scored more points than he did. And 3 of those instances are teams that got booted because they are cheaters. That was the Guiltinis. Second was defense. Our defense, especially inside the 22, is probably the strongest of most teams. I don't have any specific stats on that, but definitely if you look at that Seattle game at home, with literally being inside our own 22 for 50 minutes. And the other thing I had there was there's just this never say die attitude on the field. If you look at it, we had 75% of our bonus points earned. That's both for try bonuses and losing bonus points. 90% of our losing bonus points earned. And if you really think about it, aside from probably the 2 San Diego games, every single loss was turned around. So this is a team that could easily have been a 13-3 team, and with the wrong bounce of a ball or just something missed, turned us into 6-10.
That's so true. That is so true. Alex, what do you got for us?
Man, as far as what went well on the field, to me, being new to this, I have a very narrow frame of reference, but just going back the last couple of years and watching old games where we could find them and that sort of thing, man, I think we really found our stride this year. As best as I could tell, early on, there wasn't a lot of. I don't really think the league took us very seriously. I think we were just kind of seen as this, mediocre team. And as season went on, every time we would have some kind of a hit or a problem, somebody's injured, somebody's hurt, we had to trade somebody out, whatever it was like we still managed to find a way to just elevate and elevate and elevate and elevate. And I mean, I feel a little bit like we were, I don't want to say robbed, but I feel like when we played the Seawolves in the playoffs that we just played better. I think they got luckier. I think they got luckier and that we actually played better. But the thing that I think that I was the most impressed is, I mean, not only did we show that we have championship material, but I mean, would we have beat the Free Jacks? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have proven that we have enough fuel in the tank and enough tools in the box to have done it. I think that very easily could have been ours. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we showed everybody that we're legit. We're the force that is going to need to be reckoned with next year. And I feel like we did it all while playing very clean. I think we maintained really good sportsmanship, which is one of the things that attracted me to rugby to start with. I think we're a very balanced team. I think our attack game versus our defense is pretty good. We don't seem, at least as near as I can tell, to really lean on one more so than the other. But I mean, for me, like I said, the thing that I think went the absolute best for us is while we didn't walk away with the shield, we showed everybody it very easily could have been ours.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. You raised some good points there. Kibui, what you got for us on that? What went well?
Two very good points by Steven and Ogre. For me, one of the things that stood out for me was the depth. We all have to remember that by the end of the season, we were missing a U.S. international. We were missing our star center, Mitch Rich, who had been the staple from the first game. We missed our most electric player, Logan Isaacs, and we were walking wounded. But somehow, some way, we were up 78 minutes and just unlucky. They loaded the blind side and we got caught out. We were 90 seconds from being in a final with five of our starters from the beginning of the season gone. So you tell me last season that we had 5 starters missing, it was a bloodbath. It was bad.
Yeah.
So that's huge progression. Second thing is the coaching just seems to have, gotten so much better. Kuka having a second season with the team and the addition from Nate Osborne, you can see the dynamic play that we had this season from last season. And so those are two of the points. Final point was just bonus points. Even when you lose a game, you take away those points. And that was the reason why we ended up in the playoff. So, those are the key highlights of the season for me.
Yeah. I think there were two big things to add on top of that I picked up on that separated us from the last 2 seasons. And I think one is that the team played better cohesively on the field and were communicating better on the field this season. It seemed like in the last few seasons, it was almost the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. And I think that caused us a lot of frustration at the end of the games when the point spread was so wide. It wasn't even certain if our guys knew what sport they were playing out there. But this time you could really tell that each person knew what the player to their left and their right was going to do. They worked better as that kind of cohesive unit, and they were able to pull off some of the sets and some of the phases that we didn't have a shot at in the last 2 seasons. On top of that one, their ability to quickly brush off some of the penalties and get back into play, to not let that kind of stuff hold them back. It was frustrating being on the fan side and being watching some of the streamed games and realizing that a call was missed or a call was not. as the referee had, was obviously not as the referee had called it, or if the referee is going to give a yellow card without ever giving a warning to where it even confuses the announcers. The frustrating things like that. But to see the team quickly brush it off and get right back in there and keep swinging. And each of the guys that I talked to this season, they had mentioned that that was a huge part of their training was how quickly can you reset and get right back into where you need to be. I also think one of the big ones was we came into the season real scared of the fact that in the first 2 seasons, it was really common for us to have a downtime for some reason between the 40-minute mark and the 60-minute mark. It seemed like that lump of time coming back from halftime, it was like we had cooled down too much and lost all momentum and we had this area where every team walked on us for those 20 minutes. And you didn't see that this season. You saw the boys pushing and running the entire time through.
I put a lot of that down to the coaching and having the continuity season to season. Having players come over from last season, you have the same coach. You actually have a preseason versus being thrown together like 3 weeks before kickoff, right? So that continuity, if we can keep the coaches, Nate Osborne is going to be in demand. So there's a couple of head coach spots that are open. We can hold on to him and keep the core of this side. We're going to be a serious problem next season.
Yeah, I want to add on something that you said, James, of that kind of like, airhead 10 to 20 minutes that we've had. One of the cool things is last year, there are so many times where that airhead time period was the first 20 minutes of the game where they just didn't have their heads in the right space. But so many of the games you can see that the Jackals were jumping in and just punching the other team in the mouth, like right off the bat. And that was just incredible to see. And especially at home, that just like riled up the fans.
Yeah.
That's so true. So I want to do this next one. I guess we'll kind of do we do like for what do they call it, the snake draft kind of thing when you go the up and down thing. Okay, so I'll start this next one and then we'll go down to Kibui and up around that way. So we'll go. So this was what didn't go well for the Jackals on the field. This was an interesting thing for me because all in all this season, and when I try to compare it to the last 2 seasons, it was like everything it was night and day. This team was golden compared to where they were in 22 and 23. But if I really had to say what didn't go well, the strange thing for me was there was almost a line halfway through the season where things flipped. And it seemed like in the first half of the season, our defense was lacking. But we had some amazingly, we were known as having some of the best lineouts and best scrums and best mauls. And when we showed that our maul could throw Dewey into the try zone 5 times in one game, I mean, it gave us some serious clout. And then it was like we played Seattle at home. Our defense became on point. I mean, all of a sudden we were the 300 Spartans at the gates. Like you said, for 50 minutes, they were at our try zone and we would not let them through. And then for some reason after that, we made line-out mistakes left and right. We couldn't get a single scrum down. Our mauls were getting demolished. It was like in the first season we had one, and in the next season we had the other, and we couldn't seem to get both of them on the field at the same time. So I definitely think that's something that Nate and Kuka can work on in the next season. So Kibui, what do you think?
For me, one key thing, discipline. Too many penalties. Penalties are points. Penalties field possession. Penalties are how you lose games that are tight, right? And so I think they just need to work on that, clean it up. The scrums and the lineouts, the mauling, that's all. I also put a lot of that down to the refereeing because the way one ref will call something is very different from another. So
That's true.
You have to adjust quickly to the referee. And when Sam Gala went down, I actually think it kind of benefited us because Vara seems to have a better relationship talking with referees. So that also that's the experience that comes with learning how to manage a referee. So being a captain, you don't have to be the best player on the squad. You just need to learn how to manage that relationship throughout the game and just have those conversations quietly. Don't throw your hands up in protest. So for me, it's discipline and just improving communication and managing the referee. So that's for me.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Ogre, what do you think? What did not go well for the Jackals on the field?
This is a little weird for me to answer, only because I'm so new. I have zero sports background.
We should say the first game that you came to that you saw
Yes.
was like week 7 or 8, right?
I came in the first time we played the Sabercats. That was our first game.
Okay.
And we learned the night before that Thursday, that rugby existed. Until that point, so just a little background for me. I'll make it super quick. But the Thursday before that game, my friend Kayla was texting me and my wife, and she'd seen a picture of a cute rugby boy, and she just offhandedly had texted, "Why aren't we going to rugby games?" And my wife goes, "Kayla wants to know why we're not going to rugby games. What brought this up?" And I said, if there's a rugby game, I said, let's get a ticket and go. And she wrote back and said, Dallas has a rugby team. We play tomorrow. Tickets are affordable. So we just went. So I watched a couple of YouTube videos and went to the game the next day. And that's what I was instantly just hooked on it. So keep in mind, when I talk about what I feel like as far as our playing goes, what went right and went wrong, it's from a very narrow point of view and only from wherever it is.
And that's fine. We won't judge you for it. We won't judge you for it. Not at all.
The thing that I've noticed is I feel like once we get inside the 22, when we're on the attack, I feel like we're very good about once the ruck forms and it's time to start the next phase and we start moving again. I feel like we're charging forward a little too early. I feel like we don't play as wide as some of the other teams do. I feel like sometimes if we got one more pass and got a little wider and relied on our wings a little bit more, I feel like there's a lot more holes out there that aren't being taken advantage of. And again, forgive me if I'm way off base on this, but I feel like we need to be getting a little bit wider when we're down there close to the try line. And because I feel like I'm seeing holes that aren't being exploited. I feel like wherever the ball is, that's where we're generally going to be very focused. And I feel like we're good at exploiting the holes that present themselves, but I don't feel like we're doing quite as well creating those holes and exploiting them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, that is
where we want them to make a hole.
Yeah, strictly from a guy standing on the sidelines watching this thing, probably a vodka drink into it. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
That is excellent. Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, Alex, I just really appreciate that. I feel that shows that you possibly have an instinct because you're noticing that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Okay, I've got a couple just things. I want to respond to Kibui's thing about discipline because I broke it down as I always like to do.
I love having you as a teacher on here because you're like, look, here's the statistics. Here's the research that I've done.
Yeah.
Here's my graph chart, my Venn diagram.
If only I could show this. But yeah, no. Last year, our penalty and hard breakdown was 155 penalties, 5 yellow cards, 3 red cards. And this year we had 188 penalties, 17 yellow cards, and 2 red cards. So, and I think discipline is a thing, is something that we need to handle. But there's also another piece. I'm going to use super technical terms here. There are essentially 3 kinds of penalties. There's dumb penalties, there's cynical penalties, and fair penalties. Fair penalties are like your hands in the ruck, entering from the side stuff. It's like, okay, pretty reasonable. We had when I was watching the games, I think we had far more fair penalties, but your dumb stuff, like you're, clotheslining somebody in open play or tripping. There's very few cynical penalties and very few dumb penalties that we had this year. There are a couple of dumb yellow cards that's like, yes, you threw the ball on the ground in open play. Yes, you deserve a yellow card. Yeah. So, and one of the reasons that's happening is the Jackals are more competitive. The more competitive you are, the more penalties you're going to concede.
Yeah.
All right. And that also meant that our penalty lines, like how many each team concedes, were actually far more even. And so that was one thing. The other thing I really wanted the 2 kind of other ones was first off kicking, both place kicking and open play kicking. Our place kicking was pretty awful for a pro team. sitting at just over 62% success.
Mhm.
One of that coming, like a huge percentage of it coming from literally one game where we only made one kick out of like 7.
Yeah.
And then we lost by like 4 points.
Yes. Mhm.
Infuriating.
Yeah, then let's see. Then you have that absolute, I think that was the Utah game, if I remember correctly. But that one was,
Oh,
no, that was 2 out of 7. Sorry. 2 out of 7. But yeah, that was difficult. Also, just like open field kicking, it feels like the moment we got outside of our 22 and just doing kicking battles, there wasn't a lot of purpose in some of them. And that's one of the reasons why I think Oliver and Isaacs were such huge boons for us, because I'm pretty sure Wandy Oliver gave us all of our 50-22s that we ever got.
yeah,
That
Connor
guy is on
Winchester.
fire,
Yeah,
man.
I give credit to Connor Winchester because he has a howitzer of a leg.
Oh yeah,
He does too, yeah.
You
he
know,
does. So
he can completely shift the field. But back to you. Sorry.
yeah, no, and just like making sure that when you're kicking for a purpose. Are you kicking for territory? Are you kicking for pressure? You know, it's Danny Christensen's play last year was absolutely hilarious and amazing, but that's not how you run a pro rugby team. For and the other thing I really want to deal with is I feel like we got better at this, but still a huge issue is running open play. Is once you swing the ball out, once you have that kicking battle, Dallas was really good at when the other team kicks of forming lines and getting back in, but
Mm.
there's still a lot of gaps. There's still a lot of all it takes is that one missed tackle. So, and the last Utah game at away is a really great piece of that, because I don't know what was going on, but Manson should not have that
Yeah.
kind of space in anywhere. So,
Yeah, our kick chase can be really pedantic at times.
mhm,
And the easiest way, so just Alex, the easiest way for you to get opened up a side is if you go super long on that kick. The chase isn't purposeful, it's not in a set line. And then you have a jagged line of defense, you get cut up and you get opened up.
mhm,
And so we saw it against NOLA. We saw it against Utah. Those were the two games where we got absolutely massacred on those kick chases, and we just had no answer for it. So that's
sorry,
a great point.
it's Michael Manson. Sorry,
Michael Nance.
yeah, but yeah,
Okay. Excellent. So our next one we've got is what went well for the Jackals organization. So this is off the field. This is looking at the administration, at what went well, everything Jackal related outside of game time.
mhm,
For me, I think one of the huge changes this year that really helped, and you saw it in the very beginning from the first game to the last, was their pregame and their halftime functions. Was having the youth organizations come out and do some form of intro, do the band for the national anthem, and or do the anthem buddies they had of having kids come out and hold the hands of the players. Sam's superstars, the halftime functions, having youth rugby teams go out and play little sevens scrimmages on the field. That sort of thing I think was a fantastic change that really helped. Oh, excuse me, that helped get some more of the fan engagement and help the families feel a little more connected to what was happening on the field. Also, I think the Jackals this season they at least made a stride towards watch parties. In the past, the watch parties were 100% Jackal Den. The Jackals
Yep.
didn't care to have anything going on. This time, at least, it might have taken a couple weeks to get things up and moving, but to see official Jackals watch parties at Dr. Jekyll's or at Grandscape Galaxy Theaters, which if you guys didn't get a chance to go, was awesome to watch the game on like the 100-foot theater screen. And hopefully they do that next year for some of the bigger games also. But those sort of things I think that we didn't see last year were great improvements and great decisions that I really think helped build some of the fan engagement. So we'll go back the other way. So, Stephen, what do you got for what went well for the organization?
All right. Well, first off, something that Kibui said earlier, one of the things that the front office did really well is bringing in like recruiting and trading players this year. I think because that's what really helped build that depth. Oh, we're down 4 and 5. Let's get Breitenbach in. Have him put in some solid shifts. Ronnie McElliott did some pretty good stuff in the year, trying to fit in for that back row. So just being able to bring in, train, get players ready as quickly as possible to jump into the season. I also talked to a couple of my friends, people who just started watching rugby, and one of the things was, hey, they really appreciated the announcer explaining a whole bunch of different things. I think he's improving every single year with his announcements, and that's been pretty great for them.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, what do you got? What went well for the organization this year?
Man, overall, it's really hard to put a finger on one specific thing because a well-run event, it's really the only things you ever notice are the things that aren't working super great. As far as the home games and all that went, the facility, and this is just the professional from the entertainment industry in me, but the fact that the lines for bars are reasonably short, merch is reasonably short, the place is clean. There seems to be people staggered around the facility to kind of direct you where to go. As far as game day stuff goes, I think they did a pretty decent job of keeping all that squared away. I mean, just even simple things to me that are important, like trash cans that are empty enough to still put more garbage in, and bathrooms that are clean, and the soaps being filled, and all that kind of stuff. And again, I know that has less to do with rugby and just more of a game day thing, but yes. I appreciate that all that stuff gets done because we do need to grow this sport. And when we make the rest of the event nice, it's easier to sell tickets to that kind of thing.
What you bring up, an interesting point is, like you said, if things go well, you don't think about it. But if things don't go well, if the bathrooms aren't clean and there's no toilet paper and 3 out of the 4 toilets are overflowing and there's a line every time and there's a 30-minute line for a 20-minute halftime show and you can't get your drink in time, those sort of things, somebody walks away from the game going, I don't care how well the team is, I'm never going to go back I'm never going to pay to go back there again.
And that's what I don't want to see people come out and feel like, I'll just watch this on the Rugby Network because this is just not worth it to me. Because if we need to focus, I think, mostly on growth. I do feel like the organization as a whole, I like the way they present their team. It's presented as clean and powerful and prideful without being arrogant. All of their marketing has a very solid vibe to it that I like. They're good about utilizing, their color schemes and their graphics, and they definitely paint rugby in a very different light aesthetically than they do other sports. So I like the fact that it kind of stands out on its own.
That's a really good point. Kibui, what do you think? What went well for the organization?
Short and sweet for me. I think the fact that we had team sheets out before game day, one, that's huge. We want to know who's playing, right? And I think the social media is how you grow stuff today, right? We had no social media interaction the previous season, so it was absolutely terrible. The graphics were like downright awful. And it's been a step up by the organization. So kudos to them for investing the time in somebody to do that work, right? And I think for them to grow and for them to improve, they're going to have to step their game up and just be, more interactive with the fans. Maybe have some events, more fan events and stuff like that. But social media is how you grow anything today. So that's my short and sweet for it.
That's a really good point.
Yep.
So then I'll go into the next one here. So what did not go well for the organization? And this one is tricky because I had a ton of fun at all of the events. I had a really good time getting to know a lot of the organization, working with John, working with Bill, working with Janelle. I think I have to look at this of an organization with 8
Limited.
people on their staff did all of
Limited
this.
Resources.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and they did fantastic. I mean, the same people that were trying to organize the bus for the players to get to Houston was the same person that was answering the phone if you called because you had a problem with your seat, at the stadium. Like, when you look at how that stuff was. Now, taking that into account, the things that I hope change in the future, I think that we need to do I think that the Jackals need to do a better job with the fan engagement pieces. And I don't mean the pre and post, the pre and halftime show stuff I talked about, but I mean as far as what are they doing to make the fans feel connected to the team. There were things like the season ticket holder events that they put a couple of them on, like the open practice. And there was one other that I'm not thinking of, but we had a preseason event. But then afterwards, you talk to other season ticket holders who would say they never heard of it. They never got the email, never got the update, never knew anything about it. So they didn't. So when I showed up and there were 6 of us there and 4 of it were me and my family. And you wonder, well, this is why we can't do anything. Nobody wants to come to it. And then you find out that for some reason the email only went to 3 people.
They need to transition to text messages. A lot of people don't take, a lot of people don't listen to voicemails. I know people who have like 100 voicemails on their phone. Like, I'm not even kidding.
I think my mom has like 25,000 emails.
Answering the phone is their business. But no, text is easy and it's free. They can set it up. So that. I think that's something that they should have, like prompts for, like, hey, week from now we're having this event. You're a club member. 3 days from now, hey, then the day before, the day of, it's free. But they need to get better at marketing that through text, I think.
I think that's actually a very good point, is the text side of it. But those were things I think we need to work on for next season that could have gone better.
Sure.
I think there were some parts of it in the first 2 seasons that we didn't have for this year that need to come back. So that was kind of my takeaway from it. So, Kibui, what do you think? What did not go well for the organization?
Well, I just think concessions lines are short, but it's also because it's pricey and choices are limited. So
it is. Anybody else notice? I'm sorry, anybody else notice this? You have 4 restaurants. I hate to call them restaurants, but you have 4 food booths side by side. They all have a different name. They all have a different theme. They all have the exact same menu.
Exact same.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, make sure it wasn't just me.
I'm gonna apply some street tacos or something. I can go make some street tacos or something. I'll go get a food license. I don't know.
If you had a guy there, like every game, bring in a different cart vendor. Like, dude, have an elotes guy one night.
Yeah.
Do a what is the thing? They shave the meat off of the giant turn.
Shawarma.
Do some shawarma another night. Like, just have a different food cart come in as an option. Like, change it up.
Flavor, yeah. Don't think people mind paying, $10, $15, $20 if the food's good. But when you're having the same nasty nachos and you're paying $15, it's like, really? I paid for parking, $15 beers, like Miller Lights, whatever they were. It's a tough pill for anybody. It's like, I'd rather hold on and go have a drink after the game. So
yeah. No, absolutely. Alex, what do you think? What you got there? What did not go well?
Okay. This is where I have the bulk of my notes.
I know I came in late to the season, but let me tell you what I think you didn't do good.
Right. I say all of this. I don't mean to cast any shade on anybody, because I do understand that they're limited in their resources.
Mm-hmm.
So these are problems that I think just exist. They're not necessarily anything anyone is to blame for. And I say this as a person who, I mean, in all honesty, in my industry, I do haunted houses and special effects professionally, and well over 90% of the people in my industry work a day job so they can pay out of pocket to stay in my industry. We're one of the few who've managed to do it professionally. We've been doing it for a quarter of a century now. And I know a thing or two about what it is to market something that has a season. I know what it's like to market something that changes every year. And we don't even have the luxury of having 5 or 6 months to tweak as we go. We have maybe 16 nights a year total over the course of maybe 4 weeks. So a lot of this is just kind of coming from my point of view and things that we've tried to overcome over the years. But I understand that the ticketing company that they're using, I'm sure they're locked in with the contract based on the stadium and the facility and all of that. But buying tickets has time and again proven to be a chore. And the reality is if it's a home game, I'm not missing it, period. If we're playing at home, you can bet you're going to see me there. But not everyone has my kind of tenacity. There's going to be a lot of people who are like, I'm kind of on the fence about this, but I went to go buy my ticket. And then, oh my God, I had to set up another account. And then, my email got lost and there was no phone number to call. And it really puts them off. They go into this thing kind of on the back foot, and we don't want that. I don't know what the solution to that is. I know how I would do it. But and in fairness, when we have had to call a phone number for a ticketing problem, which we've probably done at about half of the home games we've gone to, I mean, somebody answers the phone, somebody takes care of the problem right away. I mean, they are on their A game. So, I mean, mad props to them for taking up the slack on the back end of it. Because I'm sure they're as frustrated with it as we are, but customers have a very short amount of time that they have an interest in something, and it does not take long to distract them with something else. And
I remember somebody telling me on a website, I think I caught this in school, but it was like, if you're on a website, if your clientele has to click more than 3 times to get where they're going, you've lost them.
You have absolutely lost them. And because the thing is, it's not like the Dallas Jackals are going to lose that to the Houston SaberCats as far as ticket sales go. They're not even going to lose that to the Dallas Cowboys as far as ticket sales go. They're going to lose out to mini golf. They're going to lose out to movies. They're going to lose out to, what other events there are, and concerts, and and you name it. And our competition is not other sports or even other teams. Our competition is other forms of entertainment. Because what we're doing is we're asking people for their money in exchange for providing them more value than that money in their time. The other thing that I think, and I can't exactly say this didn't go well for the Jackals, is just not being addressed. But overall, I feel like the marketing for rugby in general is just wrong. I have gotten to the point where there have been home games. I've brought 15 other people with me. And if I'm being brutally honest, a majority of these people were like, if there is a sport Alex Lohman is excited about, I have got to see it. But when people ask me why I fell in love with it so head over heels and so fast, when people try to describe rugby, they're normally describing it from a sports place, and they're like, oh, it's the intensity of football and the flow of soccer. And it's like, no, it's none of that. It's not that at all, not even a little bit. Rugby is its own thing, completely its own thing. And we have got to stop treating it like it's a subset of something else. The other thing that we're doing is we need to be going after, and this is going to sound weird, but hear me out on this, Comic-Con, those kinds of events. People who are into cerebral stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, war games, tactical stuff, because we're not playing ball. This is trench warfare. It's all tactical. Everything is a plan. There are leaders. Plans are executed. Things are practiced. Then they have to switch to plan B and switch to something different. they get down near the try line, and then all of a sudden it becomes trench warfare, and we're fighting this direction, and we're looking for holes and advantages we can take over our other team. And honestly, the people that I have brought into rugby with me who were big football fans were almost a little put off by how similar but different rugby can be. And they kind of had to learn to fall in love with rugby for the same reasons that we did. And it's not for the same reasons that they like football. I think we need a street team. And for what it's worth, anyone in the Jackals organization out there, if you need somebody to go and assemble a team to take to other events and promote and show the world why rugby is the greatest game that has ever been played, me and mine are happy to do it. We will absolutely sit down there with our jerseys on if we can work out a deal with tent space or whatever it is. But
John and Janelle, you have an offer.
Do what?
We're telling Jackals administration, you have an office of support here.
Yes, absolutely.
You have a special effects.
Dallas Jackals, you can count on me and mine to do what is best for our team.
There you go.
Nice.
So honestly, I feel like we could really we could get a lot more engagement. We can get a lot more people buying tickets, because if we can get to the point where we're selling real numbers of tickets like other sports do, that means more money for the players. That means more money for the organization. And by default, there should be some theoretical bulk buying power in there. So it should help keep the prices down and stuff like that. So that's honestly, I don't feel like they did it wrong. I just feel like there's avenues that aren't being explored fully, because I know how much I love this game and I know why I love it. And if someone had just said it's just like football, but it has these other aspects, I'd have been like, I have no interest in it. You're right.
Yep. That would have killed it. That's a good point.
Now I'm going to have to do some soul searching, Alex. Thank you. Because all of my explanations for what rugby is requires football and soccer inside of it.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about either of those two sports. I couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to start telling people it's real life Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's fantastic.
It's violent chess. It's a chess game first.
Chess.
It's a cerebral game that manifests as a physical game. Everyone focuses on the physical, but it's only physical because it's cerebral.
Yeah. Dang.
I've never thought of it that way before. You've just blown my mind.
And so other people will too. There's a whole pile of folks out there who are absolutely going to love this game as much as we do for that reason.
I love it.
Okay.
Stephen, what do you got for us on what did not go well?
Well, I had the same challenge as you, but one of the things was I was looking at so many different things, and then I stopped myself for a second and go, okay, what can the Jackals actually control? Because there are not many things that they really get to control, because MLR has so many requirements and restrictions on them.
That's true.
All right. So a couple things. I think the ticket issue is, and just like pricing is a challenge. Parking, they have literally no control over it, because that's the overall Rangers organization. It sucked that, was it 2 or 3 of the home games, they just like upped the ticket prices just because the Rangers happen to be playing at the same time. They have no control over that, but it is something to have there. I think the biggest thing is just figuring out, kind of talking off Alex's point, of how to become more visible. You're not going to get many people in the stands if you just run TV ads for the first 2 months, like the month before the season and the first month of the season. Like, that's not going to get you there. Almost everyone that I've talked to, they go to the game either because they're part of one of the rugby clubs here, or they have a relationship with another fan. And yeah, you're going to get some random people with different things. I think, yes, they need to step up on social media with that as well. I remember having a conversation with Lori Barber at the beginning of the season. She runs PR stuff for them and everything. It's like, hey, we want access to the play. We want access to talk to you guys, to talk to the players. the idea of, oh, let's show up at the airport as the guys come in. That's something that's hugely impactful for them, and that's something that's been really cool to have. So finding opportunities for the Jackals organization to be visible. We want to know more about the players. That's actually something that I heard from when I called my friends last night. They want to know who these guys are. And and that also can lead to, we also have the podcast, and that can be something else that can be exchanged and talked about. So I feel like that visibility aspect of getting out there and seeing the Jackals more and more, that also solves, like, we don't it's really funny because the people who own the Jackals are the ones that have the stadium, but they give priority to Drain the Rock Johnson's fever dream of a football league. And
they make more money off those seats.
You're not wrong. And that's why, and so we have all those different things that happen because of that they have no control over. But that is an opportunity. The more people we put in, and the more people we have there, the more people who are involved and excited, the more cool stuff that gets to happen.
Yeah, that's very true. So then, what do we want to see during the off season? So between the rugby side and the business side. So for me, on the rugby side of it, two things that I've always talked about that I would love to see, and I know it's difficult because so many of our players go home after when the season ends and don't come back until right before preseason. Mm-hmm. But I always thought it would be fantastic if we were able to set up in the off season scrimmages between Dallas Jackals players and some of the local teams that play, Dark or Reds or Quins, something like that, where you got to see what these guys were like in a fun, friendly match that wasn't at Choctaw, that could be at any of the little local pitches we have around DFW, and see them in a more relaxed, intimate environment to watch them out there doing that with some of the other local teams. So I don't know if that is ever going to happen. We tried talking about it for the preseason last year. We didn't get much in hopes of it this year because of how the timing of it, but I just think it'd be fantastic to be able to do that in the off season. But the other side of that is involvement from the Jackals during some of these other rugby events. I mean, the Sevens still run during the off season. There are women's rugby leagues that still run during the off season. There are some of the
championships is on right now as we speak.
What did it say again?
The national championships, the Sevens, are actually on today as we speak. I was watching.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
To have Jacks and a player and some of the organization down there, a table, a tent, whatever. Hey, if you like watching this, we also have the sport over here. To not feel like as soon as the whistle blows at the last game, then you're not going to hear from them anymore. I want to see the engagement continue on the rugby side of it too. On the business side of it, I think there are things that they can do. I think this is a perfect time for stadium improvements. Little things here or there that could help us out. I think things like putting cup holders on the seats would be amazing, since they have them on every other seat in that stadium except for the ones that we buy. I think there are other things you can do. I mean, we talked with the Jackals about setting up a mixer, which you haven't been doing. You don't know what it is. A mixer is a business type function. You go there representing your business, and you're able to mingle. You're able to create a network. You're able to how can we help each other out? If not help each other out, just let's pass around business cards. And when somebody comes into my chiropractic business and says they want a roofer, I'm going to hand them your business card as a reference. But you get a mixer set up where you at least create that connection and that network. If the Jackals don't, I think the Jackal Den's going to try to do that because we have a lot of people and I want to see that moving. But But then I think there's other things they can do. I think they have merchandise sitting in a warehouse from the last 2 seasons that aren't going to go anywhere. Do raffles, do silent auctions, do events to get people out there together to get some of that gear that you have sitting around as a way to pull them in to stay connected. I mean, I think there's ways to do it, but it hasn't been done before, and I think it should start.
There's
Yeah,
nearly
merch is a walk-in advertisement, right?
Yeah.
It's a walk-in advertisement. So if you have merch sitting in a warehouse somewhere, it's useless because I could be walking in a mall somewhere. I'm wearing this cool jersey, and somebody goes, "Whoa, what is that?" It's a rugby team. We have a rugby team. We were in the playoffs. We're a pretty good team. Come out to the games. It's a lot of fun.
There's on their website they've got nearly 30 of the match worn jerseys just sitting there because the auctions, and I'm pretty willing to touch all of them except the polka dot one.
That's a funny one, and I brought this up, and not the polka dot one. I mean the live jerseys there, the jerseys they have on there. I don't know why the Jackals have never made a social media post about the fact that stuff is on their website. Because what they have there, and if you don't know, if you're following, if you go to the Jackals website and you go to the shop, and then you have 2 links, one for MLR and one for the custom Jackal shop. If you go to that custom Jackal shop, again, we're now past 3 clicks, but one of the links there is for what is it, worn jerseys, or it's not auctions.
Yep. On the
stuff
main landing page, they have worn jerseys.
All the worn ones were part of those dash auctions they did last year or this year, and they didn't sell. So I'm actually waiting until
they've got stuff on there from 21. I'm not 21. I'm sorry.
22.
They've got stuff on there from 22 and 23 and this year. I mean, and it's not auctions. You spend $100 for a jersey. The jersey costs $120.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want one that's worn, signed by your favorite player, it's $100 on the website.
It's $150 signed by the players.
Oh, they're $150 on there now.
Yeah,
there's some 100s.
But you know what I mean? Like
are there 100s?
I don't know why they don't advertise that. But again, you have this stuff sitting in a warehouse. How would it be if the Jackals came out and put social media blasts out and said, "Hey, we're going to throw a shindig on a Saturday in September at Dr. Jekyll's. And we're going to take half of this inventory that we have that nobody's buying right now. And we're going to we'll have door prizes, we'll have raffles, we'll have silent auctions. Come down and try Dr. Jekyll's Rucked Up, or which one was theirs? Whatever their beer was this season, and come meet Jax. And I mean, but put together something like that. Give us something to go to and look forward to and do on the off season.
Okay.
Go back this way. So Steven, so what do you want to see in the off season?
Well, there is a fever dream because he just posted this. Christian Dyer is looking for a new home, or he's at least trying to squeeze the Sabercats. So that sounds like that sounds wonderful in so many ways.
Okay.
But no, I think one of the things is on the field. There's a piece of it where I do want to see them find people with a bit more size. We do have the smallest pack of any of the other teams. We have the smallest locks. Weight-wise, we're pretty much outclassed by everyone. And with set pieces, that does matter. It doesn't matter a whole lot, but it also factors into a lot of the other pieces. So that's something that would be good to see. Front office-wise, just like, we want more information about the players. We want to see who they are beforehand. Who are you bringing in? Because I remember seeing hints of like Vogan and Wandy Oliver coming in. I'm like, okay, who is this person? And then the next thing I know, they're on the field and, making the opposing teams look silly. I'm like, this is amazing. They're so good. And so that would be, I think, something there. And like you said, having the different watch parties, that's actually something that my friends mentioned last night was like, hey, it's really great because a couple of my friends live out in Arlington. So Pentigo's right there. And so they can easily go to those. And they had no idea that they were there or else they would have gone. But also having multiple watch parties, that'd be kind of cool to have to be able to get out to the one in Grandscape if possible, if they have it there. But so continuing that because, when when your market is so big, like almost 100 miles either way,
Yeah.
north, south, east, west, you can't centralize everything into one place.
Um,
Sometimes you have to sometimes you have to spread out. So having those multiple watch parties, getting people excited about that could be a really great thing as well.
It was very true. Very true. Alex, what do you want to see in the off season from the rugby side and the business side?
I'd like to see a little more fan engagement. I like what you were saying about having events places where there could be auctions for field used jerseys that the money that can go to organizations or I mean it would be nice if there was periodically a reason to get our Jakl stuff on and get out there and do rugby stuff even in the off season just to kind of maintain that engagement.
Yeah.
On the business side, like I kind of mentioned before, there's some things I'd like to see kind of addressed before next season if at all possible. But I had made a note. There wasn't really a better place to put this. And again, I don't want to throw shade here, man. And this is going to sound weird. I would really like to see Jax's arms and legs reworked because, oh my God, his arms and legs are just these skinny little spine things. And I know that's a very weird thing for me to pick up on, but that's one of the things I would really love to build a muscle suit to go under that thing. I don't want him to look scary. I just think he needs to look more sleek and powerful, and it would be pretty easy to do.
I need to put them in touch with you about with that suit and what can be done, taking the fact that this is what you do for a living.
I've actually already started talking to a company that makes mascot parts and pieces just to see if they would have enough stuff so we could assemble the parts the way that we wanted. But
there you go.
I would like to see Jax be able to make appearances at more. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk to him about seeing if we can get him to come out during haunt season this year. And if nothing else, just have a night where people can come out to the haunted house and then learn a little bit about rugby and some of the goings on with that. And I just think the off season it is tough. I mean, because you're right. I mean, so many of our players they go back home. I mean, they're here for a short time and then they go. But we do have a lot of domestics here, and I think people would get a real kick out of meeting them. And also, you know how it is. I mean, rugby is still relatively small compared to other sports, and if we can get people engaged with these, see, the other beauty that we've got is there's no helmets. So they're not looking at this person just in theory with the name on there. They're seeing their face there. There's that connection there. And I think that could be a useful off-season thing is to get fans more connected with people. It's not just the Jakls. It's Zeiss, it's Richardson, it's Scala, it's whoever it is. Instead of it just being kind of this faceless Dallas team, it's this group of people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kibui, what do you think?
I'd love for them to find a way to leverage the youth teams and the high school teams. Those are already instant fans right there because they follow the game through their kids. So there has to be a way to leverage the relationship with Jesuit, with all these other schools that play rugby and they have a rugby program. Those are instantly kids. There's parents, there's the girlfriends, there's the boyfriends. It's something to go and do. And I think that they have to find a way to market to those families and bring them in, whether that's some complimentary tickets here or there. Better to do that and maybe get two parents come along as well. Maybe you have a week for every program, but I think there's something there. There's an instant fan group there to be had.
I think you're right.
Yep.
All right, last question we've got. What big move or change would make the biggest impact next year? So this one was tough for me because, again, looking at what we did in the last two seasons against this year, I mean, I almost want to say, don't change anything. Just keep tweaking it to make it better so we can get that shield, but we've done phenomenal. But it took me a while to really think of something, and what I came up with was kind of small. But if I really had to say one thing find a better way to stream the away games.
Oh my
Because
God.
TRN is a nightmare. Fox News 2.
Fox Sports.
The
too.
only, let me tell you something funny. I have a Fox Sports account. When I
I was
log
about
into
to say
Fox
fake
Sports
news,
on
but
the
thanks,
TV,
Steven.
what's that?
I
No.
said Fox Sports too.
You said Fox News. No, Fox News doesn't do it. It's Fox Sports. I was like,
No, okay,
fake
I'm sorry,
news.
Fox Sports.
Trez
I
out
have a
here
Fox
saying fake
Sports-
news on the channel.
I have a Fox Sports account on my
Okay.
TV. When I go over there and try to log in, and it says like everything live that's showing, and like we have an account that we pay for, right? So it's not a free account. We pay for this. Everything that's live, like if I want to watch the basketball or the baseball or the soccer, it comes right up. If I want to watch the rugby, there's a lock next to it that says it is not allowed under RDNS. I don't know. So the only way that I can watch the games on Fox Sports 1 is to pull up my phone, go into the privacy version of the website, pull up Fox Sports, go into like the incognito mode,
And
pull up
stream.
Fox Sports, cast it to the TV, and then at halftime, turn it off and do it again.
Mm.
Like, because what I'm paying for sucks. So what I have to do is steal it because it's better.
Yep. Oh my God. I thought I was the only one that had to.
No, I mean, like, can you please give us a streaming network, some kind of streaming thing that actually functions so we can watch the away games?
It's like they don't want us to watch it.
Yes.
I've never had to fight so hard to watch something.
It's insane. So that's my biggest one, is fix the streaming for the away games. So, Kibui, what you got for what's your big change or move? What would you do?
No big changes. I think they just need to hold on to both coaches. They have to do that.
Yeah.
If they lose either Nate or Kuka, then you're starting back with a whole new mantra and trying to gel people. I think you keep the two coaches. We'll keep majority of the core. We'll be competitive again. That's it for me.
Absolutely agree. Alex, what do you think? What big change would you put in there?
I kind of have three. Number one, I guess this would be a not big change. Yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't want to change a whole lot with the team if I'm being brutally honest. The coaching, I say we're starting to really find our stride. We're going to have a good off season to really get some work done. Whatever we're doing in that regard, I think is work. Two things I would like to see change. And number one, James, thank you for taking the initiative for this. Since we don't do an official Pride Night, thank you for making one of our tailgates a Pride Night. There were people that came out to see the game who might not have come otherwise, but they thought that was pretty neat.
I'm glad that worked out, yeah.
The other thing I would like to see, and I don't really know how to accomplish this, man, I've only been to 2 away games and they were both in Houston. And man, and I'm on several other teams' Facebook page as well, but man, rugby fans are just the best. They really are. They are some of the greatest people. And man, I am not a very envious person, but man, when I went down to Houston and saw how they got to tailgate, man, I would really like to see a couple of things in that regard. I don't know who we have to talk to, what would need to happen, what would need to change. I would love to be able to have the opportunity to have much bigger tailgates. And also, because this is important to me, I would love to be able to always be in a position to host the visiting team's fans and let them know that they're more than welcome to hang out with us. And on the pitch, we're obviously opposites and we want to win. But as far as off the pitch, we are all rugby fans first and foremost, and they are absolutely welcome in our state, and they're welcome at our facility, and they're welcome to hang out with us and talk about rugby or whatever else it is. And I would love to see our tailgates get a lot bigger. To me, it's weird that we're not. Like, I look at Scarborough Fair, and one of their big bread and butter things is they have people that are called patrons. they pay to get in, but they still have an act they put together, and they become part of the experience and the ticket value for other customers. And I feel like that's what the Jackals are denying themselves, is the ability for us to be out there and be their face and shine them in a positive light and let people know how great this is, and let us be the gate to bring people in. But we need a little bit of space and some permission to do that. And I could understand if the lots were filling up completely full, but they're just not. And again, I don't know what the solution to this is, but if there's any way we could get tailgate ramping up, I think that would be super awesome.
You know, there's one thought on that. On 2 notes for you, let me think of. So tailgates, it's a conversation that's come up a good bit.
I imagine, yeah.
Here, I mean, in between with myself and talking with the Jackals administration, and here's the hard part. They've given us, when it first started last year, they gave us the far back corner of Lot L, which, if you know anything, is it's a bit of a walk from the
Across
stadium.
that little bridge, yeah.
Yeah. And there's good space there, and there's good room, and nobody cares if we take up some parking spaces and whatnot. But if you don't know it's there, you can't see it. So then they gave us that corner on Lot E, and the great thing about that corner is we're seen from everybody that goes through that stop.
Yes.
The location there is phenomenal. Have the eyes on it, have the optics for it. I would love nothing more than to walk into the Jackals office, and they would love to hear it too, for me to say, we need more space because I can't fit more people in that little patch of grass. I need you to give us parking spaces so that we can set up tents, and we want to put music out there, and we want to do this. I can't start that conversation, and they won't listen to that conversation until there are too many people in that patch of grass. But when every home game we had this season, and Alex, when I say there were 20 people there, 15 of them came out of your van.
That's very true.
When there are 20 people in that patch of grass, I don't have a leg to stand on to go to the Jackals and say I need a bigger room. And one of the frustrating things is when I look out over that parking lot and I see we're on the corner, and I see there's another group playing cornhole and barbecuing on the other side back by the trees, and another group halfway down doing their thing and having their drinks in the tailgate, and another group in the middle by the stop, by the light post in the parking lot. And you go talk to them and you say, why don't you guys all come up so we're all in one area? And they'll go, when that gets bigger, you let me know.
Challenge accepted.
Well, it would get bigger if you walked over there and joined us.
Yes.
So you're right. So I need that to get bigger. I need people to be overflowing from that spot, and then I can go say, give me a bigger spot, and they will. Now, the other side of that is one of the cool things that we used to do in the past that I want to start doing again. If I can get more, confirmation that we're going to go to away games or the away teams are going to come to us, is we used to actually do a signed ball exchange with the other supporters groups. When Seattle would come down, they would come down with a Seattle ball signed by their players, and we would get a Jackals ball signed by all of our players. And if we couldn't do it on the pitch, we'd do it back in the Concord, and it was kind of a big thing. Everybody get pictures, and we would exchange this ball and shake hands, and we're supporters clubs, and it would be, man, to do that again would be fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That would be sweet.
Steven, let's wrap this up for us. What are some big changes you want to see that'll make a big impact?
So I think this one's probably a longer game piece. The Jackals are a pretty young team. Like the team is a lot of younger players with a couple of seasoned veterans, but we also don't have the history of a lot of teams like Houston. Houston's a flagship team as well. One of the things I'd really like to see is I do want them to make the academy a thing, like make the academy happen. Because I've seen a couple of Jackals Academy shirts coming around. I've seen some universities posting, "Oh, this person got signed to the Jackals Academy." Although I know pretty certain that most of them are probably working in the area and maybe get some practices in at some point, if that's even the case. And so, because that academy is where they're going to find their new players to replace all the good ones that we have. You know,
Mhm.
it's almost like it kind of makes you a little green when you see somebody like Seth Smith come out of Houston, like this big burly 18-year-old that's literally going that maybe not this year, but next year and maybe the year after that, he's going to terrorize the league. And if he
Oh,
stays
that
with
guy
Houston,
is a monster.
yes,
Yeah.
he's like Joe Tafete, and it's
Yeah,
just
he scares the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, no. And Dallas has that opportunity because the academy is also a way that you can attract players, because there's a whole side of rugby of there's a whole side of crowds that you can get, because I think it's really cool that the Dallas Rugby Football Club, they do youth stuff down in South Dallas and
Mhm.
try to attract those kids. There's a whole potential there of finding pure athletes that all they need to do is just learn the strategy of rugby, and
Yeah.
then that's it. So that academy and giving those clear pathways is like that one big change to turn us from, oh, we are probably the greatest 6-10 team that's existed in rugby at this point, and then turning us into that powerhouse where we can expect to win 10 plus games every season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we are super close to that. I mean, just looking at how we played the last couple of games in particular,
Mhm.
man, we're just, God, next year's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, it will.
Hmm.
It's just, I'm so looking forward to it.
Man, this has been fantastic. Kibui had to jump off early for another engagement, but when you get a chance, I want to say thank you to him for joining us for this.
Hmm.
Alex, Steven, thank you so much for your time.
Anytime.
Taking your time out of this Saturday to come talk to us. This has been a lot of fun. We do
Yeah.
plan on doing a couple more things like this throughout the year, throughout the off season. So I'll keep
Mhm.
you guys informed and keep the Jakl Den informed. If we have some stuff going on that is that's in person engagement stuff, if I get this mixer moving around and a couple other things, then I will let you guys know.
Awesome.
Any word that we have from the Jackals, if things going on with them, I'll pass over to you guys. But thank you so much. I think the next big thing we have on the books is Rick is putting together a pre-draft lineup for us. The man gets info from all kinds of dark sources of the world on what's going to happen in rugby. So he usually has some good insight on what we look for in that draft. So aside from that, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great weekend, a great off season, and we will talk to you in the future.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody.